sorry about that. I've been talking for like 5 minutes before I realized that nobody could hear what I was saying. Can you guys hear me now? I think you can because now I'm seeing my microphone lighting up. Okay, let's start this totally over again. I just explained so many things pointlessly. Okay, let's just restart the whole day. Welcome. It's Tuesday morning here in Bangkok, and I got a new magnifying glass for my setup. So we're working on this Morganite here, and as I was just explaining to myself, this this piece pretty much dictates to us already what we need to do to the stone. So we've got a nice flat face here that doesn't have any deep cracks, and on the bottom of the stone you can see it's already kind of tapered a little bit, and I've got a little bit of cracks and stuff here that I'm gonna have to take out. Not cracks, but just grooves and the natural shaping of the stone. So it's gonna make more sense to make this into a culet and to make this into a table. And since this Morganite is, it's not 100% clean, I know that I'm gonna have to work around some inclusions. Also, because Morganite is isotropic, it doesn't have pleochroism, so we don't really have to think about where to put the table in terms of color. The color is going to be the same on every side, and we don't really have to think about anything like color zoning because there's no color zoning in the stone. It's just a uniform pink color, which makes it super easy for us to cut in terms of planning because we don't have to make a lot of complicated decisions. It's mostly a decision based around shape. Whereas if this was a tourmaline or a sapphire or some other stone with pleochroism, then our decision making process gets a lot more complicated because we're going to have to compromise between color and shape usually. But this one, it's easy. Our only compromise is going to be shape and inclusions. So that's my thought about this stone table culet. I want to take out a lot of the cracks, and I want to make the shape a little bit more regular before I go into my dopping process. So let's switch views here, and we'll get started. So this is my pre-forming lap. I think I was talking about these laps last week. These are the Dreamer laps from Taipei, and I've been really enjoying this pre-forming lap. This is a 260 grit, but both of these laps, the 260 and the 600, are pretty I don't know, forgiving. Like they're not really harsh and creating really deep scratches. So basically, my process is to start to regularize the shape. So I'm just gonna start basically making my girdle shape. I want to get all the cracks and stuff out of the girdle. And there's a lot of little pits and stuff here, so I don't want to be thinking about that once I've got the stone on the dop, because in my idea, if you don't know the actual shape of the stone once the inclusions have been removed, it's pretty hard to know where the center of the stone is, and then how can you do a good job of dopping if you are still going to take off material from the outside edges. It's possible, people do it, I've done it before, but it's easier, I think, to take all the cracks out now, plus then there's no surprises later that might change everything for you. Also, for this one area, there's kind of like a concave, there's like a concave spot right here. This part has to become flattened because the faceting machine can't go into the concaves. Yeah. Welcome, Uncreative Automation. Thanks for being here with us. Glad that you got referred. I hope that you're going to enjoy it. We're just going to do some cutting here today. So let's continue on. Hey Sam, no problem. Welcome. We're just doing some Morganite here. Talking about preforming today. I haven't really showed you guys anything about preforming yet. So I'm just going around the girdle trying to get off all the cracks right now with this Morganite. Sweet. Ryan. Who's Ryan? What's his last name? Maybe I know him by a different name in real life. Okay, so do you get discounts on the machine? No, we pretty much just buy the machines at the cost. We have some that we have bought for the school. So with those ones, they did give us a little bit of a discount because we bought 10 at once. But normally, no, we just pay the price. I mean, the price is it's pretty affordable compared to most faceting machines. This one is like $1,200 with plus shipping, so it's totally reasonable. Okay, so here's where I'm at so far. You can see that I've flattened the table and took off most of the cracks. There's still a little bit of a crack here, some stuff around the edges that I haven't messed with yet because I think that will come out when I start doing the facets. But I'm not at all done with the girdle. You can see that little concave area is still there, and you can see that part's still shiny. I haven't even touched that spot because I need to cut deep into the stone to get the concave area out. So I got to keep going on that spot. And there's a lot of little chips and stuff here, but I wanted to show it to you now because I'm going to start tapering the bottom as I go. So far I've just been going around the edge like this. Now I'm actually going to taper the bottom. Oh yeah, that's a cool idea. I would love to be part of some kind of Twitch guild. That sounds really cool. Keep me informed about that. Or maybe he can get a hold of me and yeah, I would love to be part of that kind of a community of creative live streamers. Okay, so now I'm gonna work on this little concave area as well as start to taper the bottom. So when I teach people how to do preforming in the school, the number one rule is don't cut your fingernails off. You have to hold the stone in a way where you're not going to grind your nails off while you do this, because that sucks. It's not going to hurt you, but it doesn't feel good. So notice now I'm tilting the stone at like a 45-degree angle and starting to put in some shaping on the bottom, because basically what I want to do is I want to get rid of this rough little bit on the bottom here so that I can start to see where my angles are going to go. And there's a lot of cracks and stuff here, so I'm going to take out quite a bit of material off the bottom in order to get it to where it's not going to be windowed when I'm finished. And I'm coming in from all four sides. I haven't even decided at all what shape this is going to be yet. I'm kind of just going to let the stone dictate. I'm going to kind of do this one as a freestyle. I did that one on the last stream that we did too, just kind of follow the shape and create an interesting shaped stone. I think I'm going to do that again. I kind of like the way that last one turned out. So and so now if I show you the close-up, you can see I just have a little bit of this rough area left that I'm trying to get out. Okay, catch you later. I'll be here next week at the same time. So next time bring some coffee. Okay, so yeah, I got to get that part out, but I don't want to just flatten it because that would just give me a window. I want to do it through angles. And if you look through the top, if I get it wet, what you'll see is, notice how you see the two sides are shining now, whereas before they weren't doing that, but there's this black stripe in the middle. That black stripe in the middle is my window. That's this area that's not been cut. Once I point this or take it to a point, you're going to see that the window is going to close. So this is how you can see if your angles are correct, even in the preforming stage. Unless you're working on a really dark stone, sometimes it's hard to see, but on a light stone like this, it's super easy to see when your stone's windowed. So I'm just going to keep on grinding the angles down there and get rid of all the cracks and stuff. So I know that basically I don't want to leave any holes in the bottom of the stone. This almost always causes me a headache when I get to the bottom of the stone. And I'm just trying to go slowly so I don't take off too much material, but I want to keep my culet point kind of in the middle so I'm not grinding just from one side. Otherwise, it's kind of pointless because then I just have to push it back with the faceting, which I don't want to do. Okay, I'm just about there. Okay. So here's where I'm at now. I took it all the way. Notice now it's a point, and if I get this wet, you're gonna see no more window. It's totally reflective all the way down. Of course, this is just preforming. Angles and stuff have to go here, but this was the angle that I had to get get the cracks out. So I don't feel that I wasted any excess material. I was going to have to go here anyway, and it's much faster to do it now while I'm doing it freehand. Also, I can see here, notice this inclusion. This is a thing that I have to really consider, because if I leave that in there, it's going to be highly visible. I mean, you can see it from the front. There's a line there, and there's another one. You can't really see it, but there's another one on the other side here. But they're so deep that I think if I try to get them out, I'll just lose the stone. There's nothing, it's so deep into the stone. I just have to leave it. Most of this batch has been like this. I haven't been able to get any clean material because the cracks are so, the inclusions and stuff are so deep into the stone. But that's okay. I mean, you just sort of know that's going to happen whenever you're working on this stuff. So I'm gonna now continue to get some of the cracks out of the girdle. Now that I know where the girdle, now that I know where the culet's at and where the table's at, I can kind of fill in the rest. So I need to get that hole out. I need to get some of these holes out. This lap is called the Dreamer. It's from the guys in Taiwan that are making this, Daniel Hu. And yeah, so far I'm liking this lap. It's fast. It is funny because as you can see, it's making my whole faceting machine blue. I don't know why, because I mean, I guess the lap is blue, but I don't know, it's weird. But, okay, let's continue on here. And so I'm just looking at my stone. I'm looking to see where the holes are at. And I'm either flattening them or rounding them, depending on how I want to make a shape. I want this one to be slightly geometrical, so I don't want to round off everything. Some of this stuff I do want to, I want it to be flat because it's going to be part of my interesting girdle outline shape. And yeah, there's some deep cracks on the table that I'm getting at now too. Okay, and last step is just that little concave area. So let's take that out. Okay, so this is what we're left with when we got all the cracks and stuff out. This is our shape. So if I would have done this on the DOP, I don't think these laps are available in the US. You're just going to have to order them. I know those guys did go into Taipei, and I mean, sorry, into Tucson, and had the machine and stuff, and that's actually where they gave me these. But I think you'll have to order them. The guys on Facebook, if you send me a message after the stream, I can link you to his personal page. It's Daniel HU, but I'm not sure if it'll pop up easily on Facebook. So I can send him, or I can send you his info. Okay, so yeah, I don't think I would have lost or gained any more weight by doing this step on the machine, you know, in terms of on the handpiece. So what I can do now is I could dop it right now and then define my shape a little bit more. Actually, I think that is what I'm going to do, because if I start to make strange angles around here as far as where the index numbers will go, they won't line up. So it does make more sense now to do the dopping and see where we're at. So let's switch stations here, and I will take you over to the dopping station. So this is where the magic of dopping happens. So I've got my red wax. Let me zoom this out a little bit. Whoops. Okay, just tightening everything up here. Okay, so I've got my red wax, I've got my alcohol burner, my two tweezers, my preform. This is a stone that I'm working on, but I'll get to that one later, I guess, because I didn't want to do another second half of a stone like we did last week. I wanted to show you guys something from scratch. So this is how the dopping's gonna go. Well, if my lighter works. Okay, got my torch. I need a dot with some wax on it. This will do. So I'm gonna heat up the wax, and then with the back of my tweezers, I'm gonna roll out the wax into a nice sort of tall cylinder shape. Now, for me, I like to use the top just right above the flame. I don't like to put the wax right in the flame because it tends to catch on fire, and if the wax burns, then it doesn't stick as well. Ah, yeah, thank you. These are plate holders from the store we have here called Daiso. It's kind of like a Japanese dollar store. So each one of these was, it's not a dollar though, it's a 60 baht shop. So everything in the store is like 60 Thai baht. And so these were 60 Thai baht, which is about $2. So I've got a ton of them. I don't know if you can see over here. I've got like 5 of those lap plate holder things for all the laps that I don't use. So these are just the ones that I use all the time. So I keep them up here so I don't have to, you know, whatever, go all around. Okay, so yeah, I want to roll this out. It's a little bit fat right here, so I want to press this wide part so that it kind of rolls up a little bit. And that should work. Now, next step, we have to heat up the stone. If we don't heat up the stone, it won't stick. So I've got the stone and my tweezers. I'm heating up the culet side because I'm going to cut crown first. So heat up the stone just for a few seconds. Whoops. Weird shape stone. Hard to hold. Okay. Heat up the stone. Heat up the dop while the stone stays warm next to the flame, and then I can just, I like to let the wax drip onto it a little bit, and then I'm going to center it. Ooh, top. Okay, so this is basically just when I put it on. Now notice over here there's not a lot of, basically on both sides there's kind of like a 90-degree angle. Hey, what's up? Welcome. Haven't seen you here before, but there you are. So yeah, notice, especially over here, there's no wax that's supporting this part of the under part of the stone. So I need to shape my wax a little bit better and spread it around, smooth it out. I don't want any of these like what looks like a ridge. This is like a weak spot into the stone. So you've made the switch. I'm interested to see how you change, you know, what you think from starting pavilion first versus starting crown first. Okay, so I'm going to add a tiny bit more wax onto this side just because I didn't have enough. So just drip it in the corner just to give me something to work with. The thing I really love about dopping with wax is, you know, it's so malleable. You can really make it do whatever you want to do, which is the opposite of super glue, which is just stick it and it's done. Okay, we can work with that. So I added a little bit more. Let me shape it. Heat it up and shape it. So basically I want all this new wax I just added to melt into the old wax, and I want to make sure that I'm spreading the wax as much as I can. Now I haven't at all looked at my alignment. I'm just making sure that I've got a supportive bit of wax underneath my stone. Then I'm going to start thinking about, is everything centered? Okay. Now notice I just heat up all the wax, let it flow, and I'm trying to just get out any holes, any cracks. I want everything to be smooth because smooth lines are strong. And then I won't have to worry that it's going to pop off the dop. Now it's just a little bit hot right now, so I'm just letting it cool because it's burning my fingers a little bit. But and I also just want the wax. Notice now there's no break in the wax. It's seamless. It's smooth. That's a strong bond. But these two areas here where there's kind of like a 90-degree L shape, that's not exactly a strong bond. It'd be nicer if it was more like an ice cream cone shape. But I've got so much wax on there now that I think it's going to be fine. But normally we do like to have more of like a cone shape underneath the stone. But this should be fine because it's quite a wide stone, so it's not going to come off. So next step, I'm going to put the stone into my handpiece and tighten it. And now I start looking at the alignment of the stone. So notice, let me see what angle I can put this at. That's going to work for you guys. Maybe right there. Okay. So notice, I don't know if you can notice. I have to notice myself. Yeah, as we turn the stone, it's not so clear on camera, but it is quite clear to my eye. As I turn it on the stone, on the handpiece, the table is kind of like doing this, like back, forth, and also the stone looks like it's moving left, right. So I know that my table's not flat and I'm not centered. So first thing I'm going to do, I can heat it up. Another good thing about the handpiece, you can heat it up while it's in the handpiece, because you can just hold it over there. And then now, as I turn it, not hot enough. As I turn it, I can start to adjust the stone. And basically there we go. When I spin it around like this, it shouldn't look like it's moving. It shouldn't look like the table should look flat all the way around. So basically I'm aligning my field of view, my line of sight, with this flat table that I cut. And as I turn it, it should look straight, and it does now. Let me see if I can show you guys that. I have to line up the camera's line of sight with the tabletop, which is quite confusing because I'm looking at it backwards. Okay, that's maybe as good as I can do. So notice, if you just look at the flatness of the table here, it doesn't appear to change. Yeah, there we go. It's just flat all the way around. That's good. Now what I want to look at is, this is how I do the centering. I'm going to look at, from this view, what I'm showing you in the camera. Notice how the top of the stone lines up with this ring right here. Now when I flip it around, I want the bottom of the stone to be in the exact same place, and my hands can't move when I do this. So and it's pretty good. Okay, this way it's pretty much centered already, but I don't think the other direction is going to be that centered. So basically I'm going to look at this high point and line it up with this silver ring. And then when I flip it around, notice this point is way lower than that silver ring. That means the stone is down, and I need to push it up this way. So let me heat it up. And every time you move it in the wax, it's going to kind of go in all the directions at once. So you have to be careful not to mess up your what you just did. You know, fix one problem and then make another problem. So you're kind of looking at all three of these directions at once: the table, the length, and the width. And since this stone is irregularly shaped, it's not going to be perfectly in the center because it's not symmetrical. This is going to be an asymmetrical stone. So I'm just double checking by eye. The alignment can be a little bit better. I just want it to be pretty much in the center, and it looks like now it is. So if I show you guys again, notice the amount of silver ring is pretty much the same. It's not exactly the same because this part sticks out more, but that's on purpose because it's not a symmetrical stone. And then this way, when I line it up with the gold ring, and then flip it around, it's in the same spot. And, but now, see what's happened? My table's not flat anymore because I pushed it around too much. Notice how it's tilting up. So I need to push that back and try to not uncenter the stone at the same time. Sometimes doesn't work. So you kind of just keep going back and forth on all three of these axes until it's even. Let's see, double check. If you don't get everything even when you do your dopping, then you typically tend to lose more weight in the cutting because you'll cut one side deeper than it needs to be in your efforts to center it. Whether you're using a mast or a handpiece, we do this on both. You know, we try to use the handpiece or the mast to cut to the center of the stone. And so if your stone's not centered, then it doesn't really work. So I'm just double checking everything and making some adjustments. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So that's my final alignment. And I know I'm going to cut some of this stuff off, so I don't mind if it's not 100% perfect because I'm going to change the shape anyway. So let's go back over here. And yeah, we'll go back into the microscope mode. So I'll show you just trying to get my focus here. Okay. So this is where we're at. And yeah, you can see this this thing. I didn't even notice this before. Maybe it didn't exist before. Maybe the heat agitated it. But notice this little white crack. This is like a something that we're going to have to take off. It's basically like a cleavage plane or something like that. A little crack in the stone. Yeah, the wax dopping can be pretty messy. You need to be careful. It's usually the thing that makes the biggest mess in the classroom. And you'll notice, I don't know if you notice, I've got my whole dopping station on a wooden cutting board. I really recommend that because, you know, if you start a lot of people, when they're just new to dopping, they'll heat up the wax, it catches on fire, then they start shaking the dop and it's throwing hot wax everywhere on the desk. And so if you put your cutting board down there, then you tend to not get wax all over the desk because it's quite hard to clean off. Okay, so we're going to do some preliminary shaping while we're still on this rough lap. And let me just, I didn't refresh my water this morning, so let me just grab some water real quick. Okay. I have this idea that once I get another order coming from the faceting machine company, I'm going to ask them to build me like a super tall drip tank. I want like a double height drip tank so I can not have to refill it so much. I think that won't be very hard for them to do. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is, well, one thing that I haven't done yet at all, and I need to do this, is I need to align my stone. Whoops, sorry. I need to, just trying to see if maybe if I turn the brightness down on this, yeah, maybe that's helpful. I need to align the stone to the index wheel. it's not really on any index right now. So I'm going to put my index on 96, which is my top number, loosen the dop, and then since I've got a big flat spot here that I ground flat from my preforming, I'm going to make that my 96 index. So the way that I do that is I'm going to put this on 0 as if I was going to cut the girdle. And I want to make sure my whole handpiece is reset. My foot's on 0, my cheater's back to 0 or whatever in the middle. Yeah, 0. Doesn't really matter for the cheater, but and then this is in here loose right now, loose. So I can even take it back out. But I'm basically just going to let the flatness of the stone and the flatness of the lap, I'm going to rock it back and forth, and when it's flat, I'm going to tighten it here. And now, oops, hold on, let me change my angle so you can see better. Now, 96 and this flat side are aligned. So that's going to be kind of like my reference point. And when I draw my picture so I can write down my meet point or my index numbers, I'm going to go based off that 96 thing. Oh yeah, 3D printed tank. That'd be cool too. Though maybe these are basically just, well, I keep doing the wrong button, sorry. These are just basically PVC tubes. I think I can even just go to the plumbing store. Maybe easier that way, because I don't know, 3D printing, to me this sounds hard. But whatever, yeah, if you can do it. I want to get into it. I never mess with anything like that. So okay, now I'm gonna cut in my girdle a little bit to make sure that it's, and actually what I'm gonna do, I'll show you guys what I'm gonna do along the way. This is my notebook that I use for designs. Find it. Oh, I think I've used this one up. Oh, okay, here's a blank page. So as I go through, I'm going to write down, so this is what I've been doing for these type of irregularly shaped stones. So I'm going to have the top, I'm going to have the bottom, and the top is pretty much shaped like this. Something like that. So there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 different sides, different indexes. I don't know what the numbers are. I know this one's 96. That's the only thing I know right now. So I'll fill this in as I go around. But I'm going to start with 96 just so I know that it's flat in the machine. You know, flat on 96, because I'm going to need to know all these numbers when I put my facets in. So just going to come down. Some wax is going to get ground off, that's inevitable. And then basically I'm just looking to see when it's actually flat. Because right now it's a little bit like rounded from when I was preforming. So I just want to get the whole thing totally flat. Actually, I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this flat side into 2 different sides, because making the whole thing flat is going to take off more material. So this is going to change the shape a little bit. Okay, so now that just changed things here. So I've got a new side here that's at 3. And then this one still is 96. So I need the 96 side and the 3 side need to meet up. I need the girdle lines to be connected. Otherwise they won't do anything. I mean, you won't be able to have a flat girdle. So let me show you where I'm at now. Okay, there's one girdle. That's the number 3. And then here's the 96. I don't know if you can really see, but there's this area up here that's not the 96 facet of the girdle is not all the way up there. Yeah, there you can see that little triangle. Now I can leave this little triangle as long as I know that my main facets are going to come down that deep, and I'm pretty sure that they are, but I don't mind to take the stone in a little bit because I want to make sure that it's also deep enough, because it was a little bit of a flat stone. So I'm going to take it in even a little bit more just to make the stone a little bit more narrow, so I have a little bit more height to play with when I get to the bottom. Okay, so now that little triangle that was there, it's still there a little bit. I don't see it on the camera, but it's still there a tiny bit. But basically, I think you can see now my 3 index facet and my 96 index facet are making a nice line. That's what I wanted. Yep, new magnifying glass. It's working pretty well, right? It's got a built-in light, so it really helps the camera to focus in. I got a little scared though because it came from China, so I had to decontaminate the box and everything before I got into it. But working pretty well. It was like, I don't know, 10 bucks or something like that. And I can easily pop it up. So this is what it looks like without the magnifying glass. And then with the magnifying glass, I think it makes it way easier for you guys to see, and it highlights the facets so easily. So I'm really liking that. Okay, so let's go around and find some more of these indexes. So I can do this kind of by eye. So basically, and I don't want to cut my thing, but basically, you know, if this was 96 and we can see 96 flat line, I can just rotate it to where, okay, flat line is going to be 72, and that makes sense because 72 is the side of 96. So 72 lines up with one of the sides, so I'm going to flatten that side. So every time I'm going to make sure that the handpiece is flat before I come down, just to make sure that I'm not, you know, tilting in some strange angle. And then just want to see, I just want to cut off just as much as I need to. So this is 72. Actually, I don't want there to be a flat side there, though. I want it to be a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to say 84. And instead of making that side flat, I'm going to make it pointy, just to make a bit of a more interesting shape. Yeah, 84 and 60 to make it symmetrical. And so, of course, this shaping process is totally, you know, up to the cutter. Whatever you think looks nice is basically how you have to do it. And I'm gonna try to make a balanced looking shape here. Okay, that looks pretty cool. So I'm at this point now. So I just did these 3 sides and they look like, yeah, 1, 2, 3. And you can see there's a nice line. I don't have any rough area. Basically, if you leave rough area in between the girdle facets when you're doing these sort of geometrical shapes, it's not going to work. You have to make sure that there's no rough in between, otherwise you just haven't cut deep enough. Like that spot, I'm not really sure how it's going to connect up here. I gotta cut this part in and then see if maybe that one needs to get a little bit bigger, because it's sort of, it looks like it's kind of hanging in space, but it might just be because there's no facet on the other side. So let's see, that facet should be maybe number 51, I think. Yeah, okay. Okay, 51. And then 42. Okay, now here's what I was talking about with rough between the facets. Let me get the focus working. Okay, see this facet, see this facet. Notice, let me see if where's the light at? Notice that little triangle right there. Yeah, there. That's rough. And underneath of it, if I can show you, there's another. Basically, these 2 facets are just meeting at this tiny little point, and it's very hard to see. Yeah, there you can kind of see it's like an X shape. That's not good. Basically, that means that there's rough here, and the facets are barely meeting. So I need to cut them both bigger, and I think I'm going to start with that one because it's smaller and try to push it over a little bit. I could even change the number. It was at 51. Maybe I put it at 48 and make a middle one. Yeah, okay, so now there's a 48. And a 42. Gotta write all these down. Okay, so now we're seeing 1 facet, 2 facets, 3 facets. There's still a little bit of this little triangle in here. You can see the little triangle right there. But my main facets are going to come down and take that away. So as long as your girdle's thick enough, which now it is, you can see there's a little line underneath of the triangle, whereas before there wasn't. It's kind of hard to see, but it's there. So now I need to go through and just finish the rest of my my girdle line. Okay, I think the next angle is going to be 30, or index, I mean. And then my final one will be 6. And now I gotta double check because I do have some inclusions that are pretty close to the surface and I don't want them to pop out later. So if I think they're gonna pop out later, I just cut them out now. Well, I think they're gonna be okay. It's one little crack I'm trying to take care of. This is going to be pretty complicated actually. I have a lot of index numbers. Usually I just try to go for like 5 or 6. Now I've got like 8. But it's cool. Play with it, see what happens. Okay. So my girdle line is good. Here's where I'm at. Let me zoom it. Okay. So that's my flattened shape. And we can see from the side that I've got like a faceted girdle all the way around. Now I don't normally do faceted girdles, but with this lot, I've been having a lot of I've done so many of these Morganites that I've just been kind of getting more creative with them and wanting to follow the rough and at the same time just make some kind of funky geometrical patterns. So, it's my last one, so I'm just playing around with it. But what we need to see at this point is, do we have enough girdle to go all the way around? And this is my only spot that worries me a little bit because I can see exactly that there's a hole right here underneath, right where the wax is. The stone is cutting in really deeply right there. So I need to leave. I can only take my crown down, let's say halfway, just so I know that I have got enough girdle at the bottom to hold what's going to be the pavilion line. So that's where I'm at. And I want to go over the girdle one more time on a different lap because I don't want to leave it on this preforming lap because it's impossible to polish from here. So let me switch laps. I've got this one other dreamer lap that I like a lot for the girdles. And then I switch to my centered lap for the facets. But I might even simplify my design a little bit as I do this because I'm not sure if I want to have so many indexes. Okay. Now let's just take a look real quick at Morganite. It's like, I don't know, a 6, a 7. It's the same as Aqua. So yeah, it's probably a 6. Just off the top of my head. Okay, this is my design so far. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 indexes. This is a little bit of a lot of indexes. So I might see I'm going to grind them a little bit more in this yellow lap and just to get out any of the deep scratches that I put in with the preforming lap. But if I see that 2 facets are getting small and close together, I'm going to merge them into one and try to get rid of some of those numbers because it's a little bit too much for what I want to do with this stone. It is good for following the shape, but it won't make the pattern look nice when I actually try to facet all those numbers. It's just going to look, I think it's going to look too complicated. Okay. And so you can already immediately see the reason why I like this lap so much for the girdle. Notice how it already looks polished after 2 seconds. It's not really polished, but it looks so polished that I find that I don't even have to polish the girdle after using this lap. I just leave them like this because you can't really tell. I mean, no one's really going to look at the girdle with the loop, so it doesn't really matter. Let's save a step. Notice how frosty all these look, and then suddenly, boom, it's like polished already. So I'm just going to go through and follow the numbers that I already wrote down. And there's one number I forgot to write down. Okay, now 3 and 6 are pretty close together. I think I can turn those into one facet. I think the 6 can just get bigger and eat the 3, and then we erase 3 off of our list. Now, I think I said this before, the reason why I don't like this lap so much for actually cutting the facets is it takes forever. So now I'm creating a new facet in between 3 and 6 to blend the facets together as one, but it's like pretty slow. But it's okay. By the way, I think I haven't mentioned on this stream before, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but I've been rocking these Gemcutter t-shirts on all of my streams so far. I make these. You can buy these. I've got about 10 different designs with all kinds of different machines and from different eras. And if you want one, you can go to my Etsy shop. There's a link below the video. There's a bunch of links down there now, and one of them says check out my Etsy shop. We've got stones on there for sale too, but maybe while you're cutting your gemstones or selling your gemstones or whatever you do, you want to rock a gem cutter shirt. I thought there aren't enough gem cutter shirts in the world because there's none, so I made a bunch. And since I've been doing this historical research on gem cutting, I had all these really cool old photos, drawings and stuff at my disposal. So I was able to just pull a few images that I had found. Okay, so one side's done. I'm going to try and do the same thing on the other side, combine a few angles to make one bigger facet because I want to simplify my girdle a little bit. I don't really like the shape that it's made so far. I want to make it a little bit more symmetrical and interesting, eye-catching. So basically, whenever you're making a design like this and you're just gonna, improvise the whole design, you can just completely follow the girdle shape like I've done. But then once you're starting to finalize it, you kind of have to figure out which sides need to get bigger, which sides need to get smaller to make it eye-catching. Because if you just follow the shape of the stone and you make, sort of a ugly stone, then it's kind of pointless. The stone needs to be interesting when it's finished, so you got to take that into consideration. And that's what I'm doing right now. It's just trying to make them interesting. Okay, so moving along. So I'm just going one by one, watching what happens as I cut them, seeing if I can eradicate any of them. And now that I'm seeing everything more clearly, I'm kind of getting a little bit nervous. There's a crack in part of the stone that looks like it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable. I might actually go back to my preforming step grit and take in one of the sides a little bit, because I think this inclusion is going to be a bit of a problem. Okay, just moving along. And I'm almost done. I can show you up close how it looks now. And then I'll show you the inclusion that's worrying me. I know that this lot of stones hasn't been super clean, but I don't want to leave like a really super visible crack. You know, if I see that it's something that's going to be really detrimental to the beauty of the stone, it's pretty much got to come off. So, okay, what's my next number? Okay, so all my girdle sides are cut in a way that makes them look like they're polished. Let me show you on the close-up how it's looking. Okay, so notice now the stone looks, you can like see right through it. It's so clear on the sides. I've got all these facets. The top of the stone, it still doesn't really look like much to me. I want to change the shape a little bit more, make it a little bit more symmetrical. I want to cut in this part a little bit. But the thing that's worrying me a lot, if I can show you, see how close I can get on this thing. Gotta change my angle so you can see better. Okay, notice, how can we do this? See how there looks like a little crack right there? And if we look at the side view, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it on the camera because it's pretty subtle. But yeah, you can kind of see, yeah, right there. There's a crack there. it goes into the stone a bit. And I'm thinking that that's going to cause me some troubles. This piece is going to break off once I start doing my facets. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut some of that off. And save myself the trouble later. This also gives me a chance to reshape the stone a little bit more because I'm not totally in love with the outline shape right now. Okay, so let me just look at this real quick and see from where are we going to bring this in from. Okay, let's see what happens. Basically, I'm going to take my two, it's like a V shape. I'm going to take it in deeper, try to get that crack out and make a symmetrical end of the shape. And this really should have been something that I took out when I was still doing it by hand, because it doesn't really matter, but this pretty much makes it so that my stone's not going to be centered in the dop anymore. It doesn't really affect my faceting, but sometimes you can use the centering to help you line things up, but you can just use your eyes as well and make sure all the facets meet. It's no big problem. Yeah, it's a pretty big crack, but I'm just going to take it all the way out. At the same time, I'm erasing some other facets, which also simplifies my design, which I wanted to do that anyway, so that's good. And almost there. Let's see, right there, that line in there is what I'm trying to get out. It's pretty close to the surface now. And Yeah, I've taken quite a bit off of this side, but it kind of gives it an interesting asymmetrical look, which is what I would like for this stone. It was looking like a weird oval before in a bad way, so yeah, it can't get it all out actually. I see it goes in pretty deep, but the big part's gone, so I think that's going to be okay. You gotta go a little bit more, otherwise it's going to be popping out of the crown, and I can't have that. And now I'm going to do one more new facet here on the other side just for shaping. I want to make a more interesting shape. Okay, that's good, and I have a shape that I like a lot better now, which is important to me because I don't want the stone to be ugly. Okay, so let's touch the girdle one more time with this lap, and then we're ready to start doing some actual faceting. So this is where my shape is at now, and I hope you will guys agree that it's, so that's my shape. It looks a little funny because the table's not flat, but and I think I need to flatten one more side. I can do that now. Okay. So this is just taking off any deep scratches I might have put in there on that rough lap, and also giving the girdle a polished look. And so each time I go to a new side, I'm just raising up my handpiece plate, make sure it's flat, come back down so that I know that my girdle is going to be 90 degrees all the way around. Otherwise we start to make some mistakes. Now there's one more change I want to make. So this is my last girdle slide that I want to do. I'm just basically making a new facet to merge two other facets because I didn't really like the way that the shape was looking with those facets like that. So once I finish this one, we're ready to go into polishing. Cutting step for the crown. Okay, almost there. So where's everybody watching from right now? I know Amatera's in Michigan. I'm guessing Sam TX is in Texas, because TX? Maybe I'm wrong about that? Where are you guys all at right now? Ooh, Australia. I did not know. Man, it must be very late for you. Wait, no. Forgot. No, it's probably like noon for you, right? I think you're a few hours past Bangkok time. Minnesota, welcome. I think we haven't had anyone from Minnesota or from Australia here hanging out with us yet, so this is cool. Okay, girdle finished. So this is where we're at, and I like the shape now. It's interesting. It's not. It's a bit unusual, but I think someone's gonna appreciate it. Let's see here. Give you the close-up view. It's like yeah. So I started with 10 indexes. I now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 10 is too much. 6, that's a good number. You can see it's kind of like maybe it's almost a coffin. It's almost a marquee. But this funny side here that's not parallel with this side just gives it a little bit of an asymmetrical look, which I'm into right now. And that's good for me. This is good. So now we're ready to do crown facets. So things are going to get a little bit more interesting here. So as I said the last couple times, I got a bunch of new laps in Tucson, and I'm kind of like have a new sequence of cutting steps, and these two are part of that sequence. Now this baby is also part of my new sequence, and I just got this worked out last night. I bought this used in Tucson. This is the Adamas 12M, so this is like a 12 micron cutting lap. You can it's meant to be used as sort of like a 1200 grit. And I had a bunch of contamination problems with it. Oh, we have two people one person from Minnesota. Yeah, welcome. I had bought this used, and it had all kinds of issues, contamination. It was just cutting huge, deep grooves into the cracks. And so I talked to the manufacturer last night, and luckily enough, because I knew that this lap uses a special dressing stick, and luckily for me, I had it in my house already. This one is it's a aluminum oxide dressing stick. So basically, all you have to do, what I did last night, while you're having the machine on with the water, you just you just basically hold this down, and you can see there's like a groove in here now from doing this last night, because I took quite a bit off the top because it was really weird. I think somebody used the wrong kind of dressing stick to try and smooth it out, and messed up the lap. So I was able to resurface it, and it's cutting. I cut one stone last night with it. It's cutting really nice and quickly now. So I'm gonna try and see my experiment for today, and I haven't done this before yet. I want to see if I can use this to cut the first facets in without going through a 600 grit step. So let me grab some more water. And I was reading the manual for this lap last night, because there's a PDF up on the Adamas website, and he was saying you can go, he's recommending 200 to 1,000 RPM, so I'm going to start with 900, because I usually like to cut around 1100, but a lot of times on the centered laps I don't really like that. So I just want to try this one out. And so basically here's my new crude design. So you can see I've taken out a lot of the index numbers. I should just rewrite this actually because it's a little bit confusing now and the shape's not right anymore. So yeah, I'll just redraw it here. So 96, 36, 12, 60, 84, and 45. Okay, so there's my new drawings, just to help me keep track of my numbers. Since basically when you're doing this kind of geometric step cut, as far as I can imagine, I mean, maybe you guys have a better idea or have a different imagination than me, but basically the way that I like to do these ones is I just follow the indexes of the girdle and make 2 steps on the top and 3 or 4 steps on the bottom, and I don't need to write down any of my other numbers because all I need to know is my indexes. The angles are in my head already. Now, if this ends up being too slow, then I go back to my 600 centered, or it's actually like an 800 centered, and then we'll come back to this later, but I just want to try this out. So, what? Okay. That didn't work. Maybe I was right about not enough wax. Okay, that just popped off the dop. So, no problem. Just gotta find it. Okay, bummer. So, and yeah, it didn't do much to the table. Okay, so back to the drawing board. So let's switch views. Come over here. And we'll redo that. I guess whenever I said there wasn't much wax around that one side, it was true. Okay, maybe we'll even go with a bit of a smaller dot. So this one still has some wax on it. This one has some wax on it from a different day. Let me just add a little bit more. And okay, it's kind of annoying that that happened, but this gives us a chance to recenter it as well, since we changed the shape a lot. So just want to add more wax onto my dop. So I'm just heating up the original wax block, and I'm going to roll this new wax into, again, a nice tall cylinder so that whenever I press the stone into it, it's going to kind of cradle the stone and basically not let happen what just happened, which was having one weak spot that allowed the stone to get pulled off. And also, since this stone already has some wax on it, we can kind of combine the old wax and the new wax together. It shouldn't be a problem. Just need to make sure it's all melty. Okay, everything is warm. Stone's hot. Let's redo it. Now this time we've got plenty of wax. That was the problem before. I didn't have enough wax on the dop to begin with. It's a silly mistake, but you know, it happens. Okay, press it in there a little bit more. Now, ideally, when you do your wax dopping, the shape that you make out of the wax should look like kind of like an ice cream cone. Oops. And you're going to see what I mean, because this one's going to be correct, whereas the other one, I didn't go with my own advice. Okay. Just let it cool off for a second. Now, okay, it's still pretty hot, but now you can see a bit better. Oops, still pretty melty. But my sides are more tapered. Hold on, this thing's moving too much. My sides are more tapered than they were before. My edges aren't sticking out too much. I still got nice smooth lines. Now I just need to make sure that everything's balanced and centered. Okay, that looks good. So, redopped, centered, table is flat. Focus, focus, focus. Yeah, you can kind of tell the table's flat anyway. Okay, catch you later. Thanks for being here. We're going to continue on with this stone. We're going to do the table now. And I will go to that view. So the only thing I have to do before we do the table is put my stone back in here correctly. Hold on. Because now I'm not lined up with my indexes anymore. And that's a problem, but easy to solve. So the only thing I have to do is put it on 96, as I've done. Focus, focus, focus. No. There. So it's on 96. I've got my what in my drawing is my 96 side lined up. This is loose in here so that I can use my lap, the flatness of my lap, to realign the stone to the index wheel. So again, just gonna lower this until it touches the lap. Then I'm just gonna rock this. That's not gonna work. I've got wax on that side. Okay, I gotta go on the 45 side. Because this side it's got wax up on the girdle, so that's not gonna let me balance it on that side. So I go to my next biggest facet, which was 45. And here, I can just feel, I'm just rocking it along let me see if I can show you better. I'm just rocking it along, and I can feel, you can even visually see, it kind of falls flat onto that side. So now it's flat, and then I'm gonna tighten it. I'm gonna tighten it harder, and now go back and do my table. and I always cut my tables on 96. Looks a little weird. Let me just double check that. The 96 doesn't look straight, so I'm thinking, did I write down the wrong number? Let's see. That's weird. Okay, let me do that again. Yeah, okay. I don't know how that happened, but now we're on 96. So I always like to cut my tables on 96 on this handpiece because then when you go to polish, you always know that you're in the exact same side. Because sometimes on this machine, mine's pretty well balanced, but sometimes, you know, even 96 to 48, it has a tiny, tiny change of angle. So we always cut them on 96 so we don't have any confusion. Okay, so this is my Adamas 12M. It's cutting quite fast. This is about, I looked it up last night, 12 microns. This is about 1600 or something like that. So it's more than a 1200. It's finer than a 1200 grit. Theoretically, it should be slower, but sometimes on the centered laps, a fine grit can be quite quick. So, and yeah, that looks pretty good. Pretty fast as well. So, let me back this up a tiny bit so I can show you guys with the magnifying. So my table's now flattened. There's a little bit, yeah, you can see right here, there's still a little bit of original surface there as well. I'm going to leave those in for now because I can always cut my table again lower if I need to, but I think that all that stuff's going to come out when I do my first angles. So let's see how it works. So this one, I don't have a ton of depth on this stone, so I'm going to start at 30 for my crown angle. And I'm going to go back to my original 96. And basically however deep I cut the first side. Oh wow, yeah, this cuts super fast. So this is totally good. This is a great lap. We'll see how it polishes. Okay. So I cut in my first side. I'm just going to go around and do all the sides and then you can see what I'm doing. Yeah, 12M. It's kind of an expensive lap, but for me, you know, anything that saves me some time and gives me an easier jump to polishing is worth it. And I was able to get a good deal on this one. I bought it used from somebody who, I don't know, said they weren't really using it that much. So, seems to be doing me nice so far. We'll see how. I'm going to go straight to polishing from this lap. So this is like a, you know, I'm just going to cut the lap. I'm going to cut the facets on just one lap, which is going to be this lap, which I guess is about 1800 grit. And then I'm going to go straight to my 02 polishing. So if I can do that and it doesn't chip or scratch the stone, then I have just saved myself one whole step of skipping the 800 lap, which is totally reasonable. My wife does that on almost every stone. She just goes from, she cuts on 1200, polishes on 02, and it's done. So let's see if this can do the same. That's what I was hoping. Wow, okay. It's even cutting faster than what I thought. So all my facets are cut. I'm just going back and making sure my girdle line is perfectly perfect. Because I overcut one of the facets because I wasn't expecting it to cut this fast. And so if we don't do a good job at establishing our girdle line, it's gonna make it hard for the rest of the stone to be able to look good, because the girdle line, especially for this type of cut where we're gonna follow the girdle line parallel lines all the way up, if they're not meeting even, then none of our other meet points are gonna meet even, and then it's gonna be a big mess. So gotta make sure that the girdle line is really nice. And that it perfectly matches up with everything else. Okay. I had to adjust the cheater a little bit to perfect my alignment from when the stone popped off the dop, so I just need to touch each one of these facets a little bit more to get them all even. They weren't lining up. Let's see. Perfect. Okay, it's coming in very nicely now. I just had to make one last tiny cheater adjustment because the stone was a little bit twisted from when I redopped it, but now it's looking good. Great. Okay, so this is where I'm at now. The top of the stone, the crown mains are done. So you can see I've got a facet lined up with each one of those index numbers. My table's a little bit small right now, so I can make that a little bit bigger. I'm going to cut into tier 2 first though. So I'm just going to have 2 tiers on this one. So a second tier will come in maybe about that far. So let's see what happens. And so my index numbers will stay the same. I'm just raising up my angle. Normally I raise it 15 degrees, but now I'll just raise it 10 because I started a little bit more shallow than I normally do. And I'll make tier 2 slightly bigger than I normally do because I'm going to cut my crown a little bit bigger as well. And now, since I don't have to mess with the cheater again, you'll see how quick a tier should be. Because normally I'm not messing with the cheater around and around and around like I had to do the last time. And so I just want to go real lightly and just make sure I get all my meat points nice so I don't have to push anything around too much in my polishing step. Oops, that one got slightly overcut. That's okay. I can push it back up when I do the polishing step. Okay. Okay, and last one. And since I overcut one a little bit, so instead of continuing around my circle in that direction, I went in the reverse way so that when I line up my meat points, I'm not lining it up with one that's overcut. So I'm just lining it up from the other direction so that I can see that it's balanced. And yeah, that looks good. Okay. Some tweaking to do in polishing, but just a little bit. And now I'll show you where I'm at. So now, okay. It's really hard to show the pre-polishing facets because they don't shine. Oh, here we go. Camera does not want to focus. Here, yeah, there we go. Nice. Now you can see 2 tiers. I got a really small table right now though, so I'm gonna go and touch the table one more time, and then we're ready for polishing. Yeah, we're faceting some gems in here. So we're working on a Morganite, and it's kind of, we're improvising the shape, and we're just pretty much finishing up cutting the top of the stone. So we can see the polishing process next. And so let me just touch the table one more time, just to make it a little bit bigger. And then once it's at the place I want it to be, and this lap really sings, doesn't it? It's got a really solid metal base, so it vibrates more than any other lap I've ever heard in certain spots. Okay, that's good. That's pretty much what I wanted to do there was, yeah, now my table is a good size. My tier 2 facets are just a small thing right now. You can see how thick that one is. Just a little border around the table. That's pretty much where I want it to be. And the table now is a good size. So I'm happy with that. Let's go on to do some polishing. Oops. So I've been polishing these with a bat lap with diamond powder, and that's working pretty well for me with this particular stone. Yeah, like I said, this one is super heavy. Okay, and then this is my bat lap, and I want to go wash my hands real quick because I've got all kinds of crude on them. And so one of the goals of this particular cutting sequence, and especially the way that we've set it up at the school, I only want to have one step that involves loose grit. You know, so many times people are, especially on the forums and stuff, the main problem that people are having in the faceting is cross-contamination. You know, like I'm getting scratches on this step. You know, I think I've contaminated my lap, this, and that. The way that we're doing it, this is not possible because we only have one step of loose grit. Now what this means is I'm not gonna, in this particular sequence, I'm not gonna go to competition grade polishing step. I don't need to because this isn't for competition, this is for selling. So I just need the stone to look shiny, not have any scratches, to be, you know, well polished, my meat point's good. I don't need to go to 3 levels, you know, 3 steps of polishing. So I'm not going to. You know, by using only one step of loose grit polishing, you save time, and you also don't have any risk of cross contamination, because right now I've touched 3 laps, the preforming lap, the girdle cutting lap, and that 1200 or 1800 centered lap. There's no loose grit that's been used yet, so there's nothing on my stone. I don't even have to clean my stone right now. I can just go right to the polishing lap. I will, give it a little bit of a wipe off because who knows what's on there, but I don't really have to think about that, and that's important for me because I don't have time to play around with getting scratches on all my facets all the time. So let's just start and see what happens. And again, this is really one of the first times that I've jumped from this centered lap straight to polishing, but I'm expecting good results. Okay, that looks super nice. Let me show you guys. I just had to adjust my angles and stuff a little bit with the plate, but once I get that dialed in, all the rest of the facets should come in very nicely without adjustments. So I am super happy with this lap sequence now. I was getting a lot of scratches on these Morganites, jumping from an 800 centered to polishing, but this one, no scratches, as you can see. Nice polish, only took a few seconds. The rest of them will take less time. That was my biggest one. So this grit is 0.2, so that's 14,000 grit. That's pretty much your normal commercial polishing grit. Yeah, so let's go around and do the rest. Give that one another little tiny touch. There's one little polishing line that I saw. Okay. So I'm just going to go around my sequence. I'm just touching the first tier of each one. And what I'm looking at right now is my girdle line. I want to make sure that my girdle line stays straight all the way around. Since I was playing with the cheater a little bit, there is some inconsistencies with the flatness of the facets, but it's not a big deal. I just flatten them out as I go and just double check that my girdle's flat all the way around. Okay, that's 2 down. And if I see little scratches or polishing marks, I just polish it a little bit more. Maybe change my hand position a little bit, change my hand pressure a little bit, but as soon as it's clean, it's done. Okay, that's 3 done. And you see what I'll show you what I'm talking about with inconsistencies in the flatness. So notice as I'm polishing, hold on, let me focus it. Notice how there's this little sludgy, unpolished part on the left side of the facet. See it? That means the right side of my facet was lower than the left side. So as I'm polishing, I'm flattening these out, which is not, you know, if I didn't have to do that, it would save me a little bit more time, but I find that I usually do have to do that. So, you know, you just leave a little bit of space in your meat points whenever you're cutting, and then you have a little bit of room to polish in, and then also get rid of any scratches that might pop up along the way. Yeah, this one side's giving me a little bit more scratches than the other facets. There's usually one facet that's troubling for whatever reason. This is the one that was right by all those inclusions, so maybe it's just little crystals and stuff. Who knows? Yeah, okay. And yeah, I'm using a fair bit of hand pressure just to try and press out some of the scratches. In the polishing step, because we're using this riser plate to subtly adjust the top to bottom angles, that probably my third foot is not on the plate anymore. That's usually how it is in the polishing, and then basically your stone's acting as the third foot. So yeah, maybe I'll try and check this time. Let me get it to the, okay. So I'll move my hand back a little bit, and maybe you can, or maybe I can even do this one this way. I don't know if it'll reach that far. Hold on, I gotta tighten this up a little bit. So this is the back view. So when I go down to polish, yeah, you see the foot's not touching the plate. And I actually need to go up a little bit, because now the how can I show you this? Yeah, yeah, you can see the top left-hand corner is still frosty. So that means I need to raise my plate up a little bit. My angle is slightly too low. And I'll show you. Usually I keep my finger here so I can kind of keep an eye. You know, I'm constantly keeping an eye on how. Well, I can also I can let the handpiece come down really slowly by sliding it down my finger or both my fingers. But then also I'm kind of aware in some small way how much space there is. But I'm not really thinking about it too much. Mostly I just look at the facet, and now I raise the plate a tiny bit and just trying to get it to focus. Now that whole facet's polished. Yeah, so for this machine, the plate becomes very important for modulating depth. So, or not just modulating depth, but actually changing your angle subtly. So once you've lowered this enough to where your third foot's not on the plate and your stone is acting as the third foot, then if you need to raise or lower the angle a tiny bit, then we use the plate to do that in the same way that you would use a fine-tuning knob on a masked machine to do the same thing. Okay. So let me just check this. And I gotta do, my meet points aren't perfect yet, so I gotta do a little bit more adjustments to get my girdle to line up nicely. No problem. Yeah, if you guys need an explanation or a special angle, just let me know, because that's what I'm here for. Okay, that's good. That one needs a slight tweak. Yeah, I'm really impressed with the quality of the polishing that's coming from that lap. So I can definitely say this is a lap that I recommend. I think you can get a 600 centered this, or I guess even maybe I haven't tried the other. Adamas has another sort of rougher centered lap. So I guess if you bought both of those Adamas laps and then your bat lap and your copper lap for the harder stones, or your BA5T or whatever you like to use, I think that's a whole sequence right there. You don't really need much else. I'm just double checking everything before I get off this tier. I've got one polishing line that I missed over here. Okay, tier 1 is done. So let's check it out. Nice meat points at the girdle line. Nice polish. No scratches, no nothing. And now I'm gonna do tier 2. Too many buttons. Okay. So I come back up and I want to make sure that all my 3 feet are flat when I come down so that I know that I'm coming down at the right angle. Do a small touch. I'm just checking to see if my plate height is correct for the angle, and it needed a small adjustment, but now it's good. And now, go to work. And so, in this polishing step at 0.2, it's still coarse enough to where I can make some pretty significant changes in my facet sizes. So if I need to stretch some things out or cheat one of the facets to change the line angle a little bit, it's really easy for me to do that at 0.2. If I go up to 0.1, which is 60K, it's a little bit harder to adjust the angles on the fly because it just takes a little bit longer. Okay, that's done. That's done. These small ones come in a lot faster than the rest. Now, really for me, the one thing about this machine that is more complicated than the rest is if the handpiece isn't balanced, it's impossible to do a good step cut because all of your lines, they won't come together. So you got to make sure that your handpiece is balanced. If you're using one of these machines at home and you are having troubles with the step cut, this is why. Or if you're, if you go around your girdles and you can't get your girdles to line up correctly, this is the problem of the handpiece not being balanced. I did a video on YouTube about how to balance the handpiece. You can go check that out if you're using this machine. It does take a little while, give yourself a couple of hours to do it because it's a lot of going back and forth, trying to get everything correct. And even still, sometimes I see a tiny moment where the girdle doesn't line up or something, and I will adjust the balance of the feet, which is, we're basically just balancing these two left and right, and then you can balance forward and back using this foot. If I notice at any time while I'm cutting a stone, sometimes I will just fix it on the fly because that stuff's really annoying, and it's kind of hard if you're a new cutter and you buy this machine. It's not balanced from the factory. It's the first thing you have to do when you buy it because even in shipping it can become unbalanced. So that's why I made a video about how to do it, because it's not the most intuitive thing to do. Okay, that's good. Now I just want to double check. Yeah, one facet has a scratch that I didn't see. Okay, looking good. So that's tier 2 done. Yeah, the handpiece balancing is, I always try to be as honest and as critical as I can when I'm talking about machines, because people want a really serious comparison when they're thinking about which machine they want to buy. And there's so many good things I have to say about this machine, and the fact that it's only $1,200 is my starting point, because usually when you're a beginner faceter, whether you're a hobbyist or you want to do this as a career thing, the investment of the machine is always the first hurdle. And if you have to start at $5,000 just for the machine, or whatever a brand new Ultratech is, or a new polymetric or whatever, this is a hard hurdle. So for me, this is great. $1,200. You can see that you can see from what I'm doing right here that the ability of the machine is good, but this takes a little bit more of a DIY sensibility. You have to kind of be ready to do a little bit of maintenance, a little bit of balancing, but you learn a lot from having to do that. I've learned a lot from using this machine. Even if I was to go back now and use my polymetric, I wouldn't use it in the same way anymore because of my 3D imagining of the stone and the way that I'm used to manipulating it with the feet and with this plate. When I was still using the polymetric, I found myself really freestyling on the fine adjustment knob all the time because I'm so used to doing this, and I was never used to doing that before in my technique with the mask machines. So using this machine even changed my mask technique as well. But now I don't even use the masks anymore because I just really like the speed and the flexibility of this, just picking this up all the time and checking it out. I really found that to be more fun, and faster and easier. So now the last thing is the table. So the table, what I like to do, I make sure that my plate height is right, and then this is what I call an advanced technique. I don't let the students at school do this because sometimes people stop paying attention and break their stones. But I swing the plate back. I don't want the third foot at all interacting with this step, because basically I can't get the plate close enough to the lap to get the table to the inner ring of the lap, which is where I want to be. So I just swing the whole thing back. So I'm completely off the third foot. It's just in the air over here because I want to get my stone up close to the inner ring, because that's my high polish area. And it's no big deal to do that unless you're not paying attention. You smack the stone down on the lap, which a couple students have done. Yeah, $1,200 includes everything except for the shipping. So shipping to Thailand with the import duties is about $250. So the whole machine ends up being, yeah, like $1,450, something like that. I think to Europe it was also about $250. To America, probably the same, maybe $250, including your import duties. Maybe America doesn't have so much import duties as Europe does, but. And then I'm just constantly paying attention. So notice here what I'm looking at right now. Focus. Notice that this top right hand corner of the table, yeah, there you go, is not polished. It's not touching right now. And now you might think, okay, I can adjust the feet and tilt the stone left or right, but you don't need to do that. You just need to raise your plate up a little bit more, because you have to imagine that it's not just up, down, left, and right. It spreads this way or this way. So whenever you raise it up a little bit, it's also getting wider. So you don't need to use the feet all the time. This is like the other mistake of the beginner, is like always using the feet, and sometimes it's not about the feet, it's about raising up the mast height. So 352 Texas, that's good to know. I'll keep that in my mind. It's 352 America, it's 250 to Thailand, and it's about 250 or 300 to Europe. So yeah, I think if you budget $2,000, if you let's say if you have nothing right now and you need the machine, you need laps, you need a table, you need polishing powder, and all the other little side effects that you saw on my table over here for the dopping and stuff. I think $2,000 is a good budget. I don't think you'll even hit that much. You can pick up a table at IKEA that's perfect for this machine. That's about $120. That's the one I'm on right now. It's a coffee table. It's perfect. It's the perfect height. I can show you as well. Try to show a little bit more. All I've done is put it on a little, it was slightly too short, and I put just 4 pieces of 2x4 underneath of here with a little rubber thing so it doesn't slide around. That ended up being the perfect height. So yeah, I think $2,000 budget, you can have everything, including bat laps and this and that. And if you're gonna go with an American machine, $2,000 isn't even going to cover the machine. So, I like this machine for many reasons, but that's the starting reason, was everyone can afford it. Because I also have to think about, I want students to come, and the class is a little bit, it's not cheap. So if you have to pay $2,500 for the class, and then you got to pay $5,000 on top of it for the Ultratech, this is too much, And the Ultratech to Bangkok is $7,000. So, yeah. Okay, table's polished, just gotta get one little scratch out and one little girdle chip out, or a facet junction chip out. I'm using, with the diamond powder, I've mixed, I'm pretty sure that this is Singer sewing machine oil. I buy it in the shop, they're calling it diamond oil, but I'm pretty sure that this is the exact bottle that Singer sewing machine oil comes in. And we mix it with a little bit of, what is that? Castor oil. Castor oil, you can use it with just the Singer oil. I've always been using that. Or also using olive oil works as well too. The only reason I like this better than the olive oil is that after a while, the olive oil, if you make up a big batch, the olive oil starts to smell rancid, and I just think it's a little bit gross. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't affect the cutting at all. It's just in my mind, I don't like it. But the vegetable oil is totally fine. The Singer oil is fine. Adding the castor oil to it makes it a little bit thicker and slippery, more oily, but not in a runny way. It's got like a, I don't know, a thick viscous. I'm not sure how to say it, but my wife showed me that little technique of mixing it with the castor oil. So it's normally, if I just mix it with the Singer oil, I don't know if you'll see, let me show you on this other side. When we mix it with just the Singer oil, it's looking like this. It's a little bit more, I don't know, pasty or something. But when we mix it with the castor oil, it's like more oily. It's a little bit more shiny. And this works better. And I've got these separated into different grit sizes. So this is my 02. The 01, I don't use it that much, and I haven't tried mixing it with the castor oil yet, so it's still just my regular blend. But and then I've also got up here a 0.5. So this is 100,000. This one, I haven't used it in a while, and it's sort of all dried up. But mostly I'm just using 02, and then occasionally I'll switch to 01 or experimenting sometimes with 100,000. Okay, 370 to Texas. This is good info. Thank you for that. If I have American students who want the machine, then I will know off the top of my head exactly what the number is. And so sometimes I'll even mix. Like for example, we can even do a little experiment right now to see. Everything on here right now is 02, so that's 14,000. I'll take a little bit of my 01 on my finger and just mix it in. You can mix in finer grits, it doesn't matter. It's not going to be, obviously it's not going to be a pure 01 since I've got all the 02 powder, but it might shine it up a little bit. Let's see if we can notice a difference. Sometimes this makes scratches, so we'll see. To even it out a little bit. For me personally, I'm not sure at this point if I can visually tell the difference with a loop between 14,000 and 60,000. I want to do some proper experiments where I cut a full synthetic, let's say spinel, in a square step cut with 0.2, then I do it again with 0.1, then I do it again with 0.5, and I want to see, can I see a visual difference in terms of scratches, in terms of luster, and in terms of color? Because theoretically a higher polish should mean better reflection, which should mean a little bit more color and brightness coming back. I'm not convinced yet that it's visible, but other people say that they can see it, so I want to do my own experiment and see, and then I can publish some results and make some nice photos, and we can make a little poll on the internet and say, you know, as far as the photo goes, because of course in real life it doesn't look the same, but as far as a macro photo goes, can you see some difference between these three pieces of synthetic that will be cut from the same boule? So maybe if I run out of work while we're in this Corona crisis, that's an experiment that I've been meaning to do for a while. And I've got some extra laps right now, so I could have a clean lap that doesn't have any other powder on it, and just make a fresh lap for 0.1 and 0.5. I don't think I can jump straight from my 1800 grit centered to 0.5. It's too much of a jump, but it's again worth an experiment. So I'm just trying to get some polishing lines off the table, and then the top is going to be done. And I think it's looking pretty good. There is this one little tiny chip. This has been the problem with these Morganites. I don't know if it's this locality or just the quality of the pieces that I have, but sometimes I'll get these tiny little chips that cause me to spend some extra time getting them out. Oh, okay, good to know. The other thing I'm not totally sure. I haven't tried to do a competition stone since I started using this machine, and I kind of have the idea that the way that I used to sequence my cutting for a mass machine, which is, you know, like 600, 1200, 3000 or 8000, and then 60,000. I'm not sure if adding the extra, because this one is a little bit more, I would say, flexible, or in another way inconsistent. I have this idea that doing a second step of polishing on this handpiece, because everything is by eye, not by the masked set, it becomes a little bit more challenging to do those extra 1 or 2 steps of polishing. Maybe if you have a banded lap, which I do have a banded lap that I have, actually, no, I had a banded lap. It was this one. I resurfaced it because I stopped using the banding, but maybe if you had half the lap as 0.2 and half the lap as 0.1, or maybe 0.1 and 0.5 to get up to 100,000 if that's what you want. Maybe that would be the way to do it on this machine. Like I said, I don't do the competition stones so much, so I haven't made a sequence to do that kind of thing, but I think it's possible. You just have to do it in a slightly different way. Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to get my last little scratches off. Okay, I think we're done. Let me give it a little spray off just to double check that my oil isn't giving me a false reading, but I think yeah, a little bit more, a little bit more. Okay. Now, okay, so here's where we're at. Top of the stone is done. We're gonna go, I'm gonna take the stone off, I'm gonna transfer it, and then we're gonna be done for today because it's about lunchtime here. So you can see I've got 2 tiers, I've got a nice table, everything's super shiny, especially in this awesome little ring light that's on this magnifying glass. This was a great purchase for this streaming setup. And let me see if I can get it to zoom in any closer just to show you guys a little bit more detail. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I've tried that too. 14, or even I've tried to go from 1200 straight to 100,000. That doesn't work. It makes the stones chip and all kinds of stuff. I think that I can jump from this 12M lap straight to 100, but or straight to 60,000, but I'm not sure. I gotta try it again. It's been a while since I tried to do that. Last time I tried to do it from a 800 centered lap to the 01 60,000 powder, and that was polishing but slow and also chipping the stones. I think it's just too much of a shock. So there's some physical limitation in the steps that you can do. Okay, so this is done. I'm going to show you how I do my transferring. So let's come over to the dopping station. Okay, focus. Focus. Come on. Focus, focus, focus. There we go. Okay. So the stone is done, the top at least. So we're going to take it out. Got it on the dop. Normal stuff. Now here's how I'm going to do it. We're going to completely take off the stone from the wax. And I don't want to take the wax off because I'll use this for another stone. So what I do is I just start to, as this wax starts to get soft, I just start to pull it back a little bit. And I can take the stone off without taking the wax off. So then I can just let the stone fall out of the wax and try to take as little wax as possible because I don't really want to put the wax into my acetone. So that's cooling off. In the meantime, I'll just prep this dop for whatever's going to be the next time, just so I have a nice rolled cone waiting for me. So that's how I like to leave my dops, so they are kind of ready for the next stone. That's fine. So I've got a bunch of other ones over there. So we don't need the fire anymore. And basically, as soon as this thing's cool, which it almost is already, drop it into the acetone. I left my acetone open a little bit last night until it all evaporated. So I'll just add a bit more while the stone's cooling down. So I'm just going to drop the stone in there. Since the stone, I don't even really need to put the stone in the acetone. I can transfer it with all this wax on there. It doesn't really matter because it's just going to get ground off when I start cutting my bottom side, but it kind of makes it a little bit easier to see what you're doing if you don't have all the wax, and especially if you have wax on the girdle, it makes it kind of hard to see what you're doing. So you kind of just use the tweezers to take some of the wax off. You can shake it around. You can also just take it out and wipe it on the paper towel. That's pretty much the best way. And most of it just, it's already I don't really like to let the wax melt inside of the acetone because then your acetone is full of wax. And you know, it kind of puts a sticky coating on the stone when you're trying to clean it off when it's done. So I'd rather just keep my acetone a little bit cleaner than that, but after a while some, of course, will get in there. Okay, so that looks good. And so here is my stone ready to transfer. I know it's not gonna focus correctly, but just so you can kind of get a general idea of what it looks like. It's quite flat. It was quite flat to begin with, and I'm trying to keep as much weight as possible. So I know that this angle here must be around 39 because when I did my preforming at the beginning and I could see that it, I mean even now you can, even though it's out of focus, that kind of helps actually. You can see that it's pink all the way through. There's no window in the middle where you can see my finger because even in the preforming step, I could see that. Okay, tips on using wax. Well, let me glue this real quick, and then while it's drying, we can talk about wax. So here's the transfer process. Here's the final step of our Sri Lankan style transfer process. So we're working with a small-ish stone, so I'm going to go with a small-ish dop tip. All of my transferring dops are flat. Pretty much all the dops I have are flat. I don't use cone dops or V dops or any other dops. If I have cone dops, those are the ones that I just put the wax on because I don't really care about cones because I don't use them like that. Whatever's underneath your wax can be anything. It doesn't really matter because it's the wax that's building up the shape, not the metal dop. So I'm going to take a small dop tip, flat. I'm going to put it in my handpiece just as a holster, basically, as something to hold the stone. Let me move this over a little bit so you can see better. Okay, so I got my flat dop. I've got my handpiece sitting in a way so the dop is pretty flat. I'm gonna take the last bit, actually hold on, I got another fresh thing of glue. So it's kind of similar to the way that we dopped the wax. It's a lot by eye. And when I see the old-timer guys in London and Paris who only do wax dopping on both sides, they kind of use a similar technique where, you know, they just get really good at seeing everything by eye. So I've got a bunch of glue on there. That's maybe a little bit more than I needed, but it's kind of a longer stone, so I don't mind to spread it around a little bit. I want to get the table totally covered in glue because it kind of creates a little bit of like a supportive structure when it dries. It's not just the part that's touching the dop. So tighten that just so it's straight. Now you can see it's just sitting on here. It's not centered yet. I've got a minute to balance it before the glue dries. So I'm going to try and do this so you guys can watch it at the same time. So I'm looking left to right, I'm looking front to back. I want everything, and I want it to be flat on there as well. I want everything to be centered. And my final view, I can't show you this on the camera because I can't turn the handpiece right now, but I'm looking from this direction straight down. And just the same way I did with the wax, I'm aligning with my line of sight the edge of the stone with the edge of the edge of this silver ring. And so when I flip the stone to the other side, I want to see, is it looking like it's not lined up with this ring or what? And now it's looking good, so I think I did a good job. Now I'm going to check the other side. This one's a little bit harder to check because it's an asymmetrical stone, but I think I need to push it a tiny bit that way. And actually, it really doesn't matter. On this asymmetrical stone, it really doesn't matter. Every side's going to be different when I cut them. But if it's centered, it makes it a lot easier. Especially you can use the plate to balance everything, or to cut to the same depth in the same way that you would do on a mass machine. Okay, that's done. So that wasn't very hard to do at all. But if you've never done it, it's quite challenging. It's definitely you know, when the students finish the class, that's usually one of the things they say is the hardest thing, is like aligning the stone on the dop with the wax and with the glue. But it's a learned skill. So once you've done it, you know, 10 times, once you've wax dopped, you know, 3 or 4 times with someone helping you, it's quite easy to do. But so, okay. Yeah, every glue is different. You know, this for us in Bangkok, this is the best one we can get, the Uhu Super 7 gram. I haven't found any other super glue in Thailand that works at all. You know, most of the glues here are super liquidy, and they just run off. The other one that works that I used to use in America is the Gorilla Glue High Impact Super. I think a lot of people use this one. This one also works really, really well, but the only problem with this is it takes an hour before it's fully dry. This one takes 10 minutes. So I like this one. And for the school, this is, we can't wait an hour. And even for production mode, sometimes we can't wait an hour. You know, right now it's lunchtime, so I could wait an hour. I could go eat lunch, but I don't really want to. So I don't use this one anymore. The other one that works really well, and I don't know if I have the jar up here. This one is really the bomb. It's for sapphires that are going to get hot, or small stones, or this is the strongest glue that we have used. But the only problem with this glue is it's also really, really liquidy, and it doesn't give you a lot of time to adjust the stone. For students and for people who are not experienced with doing this, I wouldn't recommend this because the stone falls off a lot while you're pushing this around. It's not really a gel, it's more of a liquid, so it's a little bit harder to use. But for the high heat stones, this is what they're using in Switzerland to do the like the super small Swiss melee cutting, the Loctite 480. So those are some choices that you have, but I go with this one because it's easy to find here. We can order it online, they just deliver it, and it's cheap, and it dries in 10 minutes, which is great for the school. Okay, talking about wax. Somebody had asked about wax. Yeah, Gorilla Glue, you really should just let it go overnight. Usually every time that I've tried to, use Gorilla Glue after 30 minutes, because I'm impatient, I want to get working again, I almost always pop the stone off the dop. So it's better just to dop at night, go to sleep, wake up, it's good. That's not practical though for like real life everyday cutting. But anyway, let's talk about wax. Now, not all wax is created equal. I've got several kinds of wax that I use. And I've got some more kinds of waxes that I don't use. We've got a few different ones that we can buy here in Bangkok, and then there's a few that we order from overseas. Now this is the one, both of these, one of these is from Bangkok, one of these I think is from Sri Lanka. I think the darker green is from Sri Lanka, the light green is from Thailand. Now, for me, this glue is awful, or this wax is awful. They don't stick. They don't have the right feeling when you melt them. Yeah, I can send you the link to the Uhu. I don't know if you're gonna find any of these ones in America. The Uhu, you might find it online coming from Asia. The Loctite, you might find it online. Loctite they should have in America, but I don't think you're going to find it in the store. You're going to have to go on Amazon or eBay or something, or maybe on the Loctite website and see if you can order it there. But anyway, talking about wax, these ones, I have never gotten them to work. They burn instantly. They don't stick. I think they have to be mixed with another kind of wax. So I just toss those to the sides. This red wax, I think, is from America. Oh, that was silly. Okay, hold on. Still wet, I guess. Okay, let me put this back on and then I'm going to move it out of the way. Actually, I think I gotta. It's already a little bit dried, so okay, that was silly. So I'll talk about wax, then I'll glue it again. This red wax is from America. I typically really like the red waxes no matter where they're from. We have a red wax that we use here in Thailand that's really, really nice. This red wax seems to be about the same. The red waxes, I think, are sort of medium heat wax. So for students, they're awesome because you don't have to get them too hot, but they also don't burn too fast. But when you're cutting sapphire, sometimes the red wax can be tricky because it melts at a lower temperature than some of the other waxes, so you have to be more careful. We have to kind of dip the stone in the water all the time to make sure that they don't rotate or move in the wax. But generally the red wax is my go-to wax. I use this one a lot. The brown wax, this is from Germany. This is ordered from Idar Oberstein. We were there a couple years ago and we got like a couple kilos of this because we need it. For sapphires, this is the best. This, or spinels as well. Any of those high heat, hard stones that get hot, mostly it's sapphires and rubies. This brown wax is really good. The reason I don't use it so much, well, partially we don't have a ton of it and we can't get it so easily, but also I don't like the feel of it as much. It feels like more I don't know, crumbly or grainy or gritty or something like that. When I'm rolling it on the dop and stuff, I just don't like the way that it feels. But it does do a really, really good job at keeping the stones on the dop. I've got another one. I don't know where this one came from. This is also another brown wax. I think one of these is from, this might be an American brown wax. I think this is also a little bit more high heat than the red, but I'm not totally sure. Some of these two I inherited with an old faceting machine, and I've just been using them, but I don't know where to buy them again. But this one for sure is from Idar Oberstein, from what's that guy's name? I can't remember off the top of my head, but I can post up a link for this later, or maybe next week at this Tuesday morning show, I will find the guy's business card, because I know where to order this from again. It starts with an O, if I remember correctly, but I can't remember. So yeah, these are the three waxes that I use a lot. Once I run out of this one, I'm just going to use my regular red Bangkok wax again, but I've just been trying to use up some of my old stock. And so yeah, basically the oil burner, or whatever, the alcohol burner, this is just filled with either rubbing alcohol, like 100% alcohol, or this is actually paint thinner, because I don't know why when I asked for the alcohol here, they gave me paint thinner. It works really well. It works really well. Occasionally I've accidentally put acetone in here. That's not so good because it burns too hot. It does burn just fine, but it's too hot, and it melts the wax way too fast. So whatever you use, I think in the UK and probably Australia, it's called methylated spirits. It's purple, right? That's what they're using there. In America, though, I don't think you can buy methylated spirits, so you have, I don't know, 100% alcohol, something like that. I can't remember. Whatever's the alcohol you can get at the hardware store. Okay, so then really the key is not letting the wax get too hot. I'll just do a little, here I can demo with this. No, that's wax. That's glue. Yeah, I'll just do a little demo here while we're. Hold on. First, let me pull this out and put this back on. Yeah, I knocked it off while I was demoing glue or wax or whatever. So I just clean off my dop again, make sure there's no glue on it. I like to scratch it off a little bit just to make sure there's no glue residue. And roughing up the dop a little bit doesn't do any harm, as long as it's just a little bit. Okay, so let's do the gluing again, because I messed that one up. So I got my Uhu Super. Just gonna put a bit on the dop. I'm gonna wipe off the table. Oops, it's oozing out. Okay. I'm gonna smear it around a little bit. I'm gonna press it flat so I can feel that it's flat. And then I'm gonna put the glue thing back on. I'm gonna tighten my dop so it's not moving around while I'm trying to visually make sure that everything's centered. And I'm just gonna go around and push it into the middle, just based on the girdle, not based at all on the culet shape, because that's gonna throw you off. It's just based on the girdle. And the top view is better for me. Okay, so left to right, it's balanced. I'm lining it up with the edge of this silver ring, and it looks fine. But this way, it's not centered, this stone. Yeah, that's better. Double check my length. Okay, now this is balanced. Now I'm going to put it out of the way so I don't knock it off again. I'll let that dry over lunchtime, and when I come back, it'll be good. So let's just do a little bit of another wax demo, and then I'm going to get out of here and go eat lunch and let you guys get on with your life. Okay, so we have the burner. Let me position this a little bit differently. And again, notice that I've got this on my cutting board so I don't get wax all over the place. Here's a little bit more of that American brown wax. I'm just going to dop this thing because it's just sitting on the cutting board here. This is just a little testing stone I was using to balance my handpiece. So first things first, I need the dop. This dop was from a few days ago, and you know, as normal, I left it in a way that it's already ready to go, but I can further prepare the wax. So I'm putting it in just at the top of the flame. This is the hot part, but I usually don't put it right in the flame. I put it above it. So, or sometimes if it's cold, I'll start it in the flame, but then I lift it up. Because if I leave it down in here, you'll see it's going to catch on fire, smoking, dripping. That's not good. You don't want it to do that. You want it to just get warm enough to be malleable, and then you can use the back of your tweezers and manipulate the wax. What I like to do is get it into a tall cylinder. And so you just keep twisting it as you do this so that it's getting hot all the way around. If you try to roll it on the back of your tweezers and nothing's happening, it's not hot enough. So you just gotta warm it up a little bit more, but you don't want it to get too hot in one spot. There we go. Now, once it's hot enough, it's super easy. It's like Play-Doh. But then again, the dop is getting hot. So I like to lift my hand up in the last minute and make a little pointy tip. Denatured alcohol. Okay, that's what it's called. I couldn't remember. It's been a while since I've had to do this in America. So this is how I like to leave the dop. It's got a little bit of a pointy tip so that I have something to push the stone into. Now, let's see what's the bottom here. Okay, this is a square. So now I'm going to heat up my stone. If the stone's not hot, it won't stick. So there's a fine moment, and I think this is probably the hardest thing about wax for people to get. There's a fine moment when the wax is too hot or too cold or perfectly in the zone. And same for the stone. If the stone's too cold, it won't work. If the stone's too hot, no problem, as long as you don't, you know, crack your stone or whatever, but I've never seen that happen. So now the stone's hot. I'm going to keep it next to the flame to keep it warm while I'm warming this up again. And as soon as you start to see it look glossy, which it is already, you can just push them together. And then what I like to do, push it this way, and then you let it cool down for just a second, because usually the stone is really hot at the beginning and it's keeping the wax too hot so that it's sort of liquidy. But then you can start to do it with your fingers, or sometimes I do it upside down against the table. That helps too. But if it's, sometimes you just have to hold it there for a second and let the wax cool down. And now the stone's really, really hot. The wax is very malleable, and I can just go around and adjust it. I can heat it up again and roll it a little bit. I can use my tweezers, but usually I just use my finger, and if it's hot, I just don't touch it for too long. But you can start to, you know, make your little adjustments. And, you know, if I was really going to facet the stone, I like to pull the wax back down so it's not up on the girdle, because then you can't really see what you're doing. And then, you know, I use my handpiece as well. On a master machine, I'm not exactly sure. Maybe you use the transfer block to hold, but you can't spin it in the transfer block. So I think the handpiece is another good reason for the handpiece. It works well for helping you dop, because you can spin the stone in a completely consistent manner. Here, let me grab another hand piece and I'll show you. So yeah, whenever we have the handpiece, it's super easy to spin the stone around in front of your face and see if the focus, and see if the stone is dopped. Yeah, it doesn't really like to focus that way. But you know, from this view, you can totally see if your stone looks like it's wobbling back and forth as you spin it. And this one definitely is, because I haven't centered it at all. So now the next step is to center the stone. So you can heat it up in the handpiece, and yeah, and when you look at it this way, it's very clear that it's not centered. Like, you see it going up and down, left and right, it's moving all over the place. So then you just have to manually center the stone. And yeah, the wax has to be warm enough. So if you're pushing it around and it's not moving, it needs to get warmed up again. And I am actually centering this on the video screen so you guys can see what I'm doing. Normally I would just look straight down at the stone. And then basically I'm just looking at the silver ring. And if the stone is moving left and right in the ring, I know that it's not centered. Doing this on the camera is not the easiest way. But you can see, even there, it's not perfect right now, but you can visibly see that it's a lot more centered than it was. And if I did this by my eye and not by the video camera, here, let me just do it normally. And then I can try and perfectly center it and show you guys what it should look like. Also, this one has a point on the top, so the point helps me as well see. And I'm sitting right under the air conditioner, so I have to keep heating it up a lot. Otherwise my stone gets... I've had to do this before in the UK during the winter, whenever the house was only heated by a fireplace. And I definitely did notice that when you're in a cold environment, you know, the wax gets cold a lot faster. And if you're not good at doing this, it's a lot harder to do it in that kind of a climate. Luckily in Bangkok it's always hot, so it's just the air conditioner that's potentially causing us problems. Okay, that's pretty good right now. So if I can line it up and show you, I know it's out of focus, but that doesn't really matter because you can still see the outline of the stone against the silver ring. So you can almost blur your eyes and do this. It's the same thing. But what you don't want to see is the stone moving up and down as you spin it. And it's not perfect right now because I'm not really going to cut the stone, but just to show you guys. Also, I wouldn't put this much wax on this small of a stone because it makes it really hard to see what you're doing. You don't really want to see the wax when you're looking from this point of view because it messes up your eye's ability to see the centeredness. You start just looking at the wax instead of the stone. So if I was really going to do this properly, I would pull some of this wax down so I wouldn't see it. But this dop is too big for this stone anyway. So this is just a little test, or a little example. But I hope that helped a little bit. Wax dopping is pretty hard to do if you don't have someone to show you in real life, I think. I had a really hard time learning it until I had an instructor, and I try to make sure that all the students that come through here at the school, they get good at wax dopping, because it's, you know, it's something that you need to, it's, in my opinion, it's something that you need to learn with an instructor. And sometimes just seeing the way that they roll it or the way that they pinch it with their fingers or whatever makes a big difference. So if you're just learning from a YouTube video or a book or even this live stream, it's not always the best way, but it's helpful. It's more helpful than nothing. So I think that's where we're at for today. I'm going to finish the rest of the stone after lunch on my own, without a live studio audience. And I just want to thank you guys for hanging out, and thanks for the questions. And if you have more questions, you can message them to me, or just keep them in your mind until next Tuesday or Monday night, whatever it is for you, and ask me then. Until then, I hope you guys are staying safe in this crazy time. Definitely check out the t-shirts on Etsy if you want a gem cutter shirt. There's also some links down at the bottom for donations and Patreon. So if you guys are, you know, not in a financial crisis and you want to throw some dollars my way, that's okay too. I'm into that. But otherwise, I'm going to be here next week at the same time. And also, if you didn't already see it on my social media, let's see, today's Tuesday. Tomorrow night, yeah, tomorrow is Wednesday. Wednesday night in Bangkok, which is Wednesday morning in New York, which is really early on Wednesday in California, and it's Wednesday afternoon in London, and I think it's 1 o'clock in the morning on the next day in Australia. Anyway, I'm giving a webinar about the history of gem cutting combined with the history of the medieval uses of using gemstones as medicine in medieval Europe. So we're kind of looking at the shared history between lapidary medicine and gem cutting traditions or techniques or whatever, technology. So if you guys have nothing to do tomorrow night or whatever time it is for you, come on the webinar. It's on Facebook. You have to go to my Facebook page to watch it. So Justin K. Prim, I think it's facebook.com/Justin K. Prim. There's a notice on my Instagram. There's also a notice on my Facebook page. It's free. It's just for fun. It's just to give us something to do while we're all stuck at home right now. So yeah, if you like history and videos and photos and stuff, I'm going to be doing a few of these webinars over the next couple months. I've even got one planned totally outside of my gem cutting stuff. I've got one planned talking about the sacred sites of the Merlin legend. So if you're into Arthurian legend or ancient British magic tradition, that one's going to be cool. That's going to be in April. But I'm working on the PowerPoint for that one right now, because I did a long trip and I wrote a book about this one time that I never really told anybody about yet. But yeah, keep an eye on my social media, because I'm going to be doing more of these. I'm probably every week I'm going to try and do a free webinar aside from the live streaming thing. So, you know, just something to do to keep us all connected and talking and entertained and all that stuff. So check me out tomorrow if you want to on Facebook, and check me out here next week at the same time, and I will catch you guys later. So yeah, have a good week, have a good night or day or whatever it is for you, and see you later.